This is crazy. This is Audible. Podium Publishing presents Columbus Day, Book 1 of Expeditionary Force. Written by Craig Allison. Performed by R.C. Gray. Chapter 1, Columbus Day. The Ruha hit us on Columbus Day. Every country had a name for the day the Ruha was out. The common name that stuck after a while was Columbus Day. I guess that makes sense. There we were, in a cosmos on our little blue marble, like the Native Americans in 1492. Over the horizon come ships of a technologically advanced, aggressive culture, and bam! There go the good old days, and we humans only got killed by each other. So, Columbus Day. It fits. When the morning sky twinkled with what we later learned were Ruha ships jumping into high orbit, we were curious. When power plants, refineries, factories, and other industrial sites around the planet started getting pounded from orbit with hypersonic railgun guns, we were shocked. For me personally, when a Ruha combat transport dropped out of the sky and skidded across a potato field outside my tiny hometown in northern Maine, that was when I became officially alarmed. It was a Monday morning, early October, the Columbus Day holiday in Maine. I was home on leave from the Army, visiting my folks, taking a break after my battalion got rotated home from peacekeeping duty in Nigeria. What a shit job that was. I was happy to be home in the States. My leave was ended by a burning streak across the sky as the Ruha transport came directly over my truck. It arced over the lake and crashed in the Olafson's potato field, plowing up dirt and potatoes until its nose was half submerged in a pond. It wobbled side to side for a minute with a screaming sound coming from its engines. Then it took off and flew low and unsteadily over the tree line toward the center of town, trailing smoke from its underside. Our supposed ally, the Sam, think that Ruha assault transport was damaged during the drop from orbit and fell short of its intended target, since that is the only possible reason the Ruha would have invaded Thompson Corners, Maine. Hell, I didn't want to be there anymore. That's why I joined the Army in the first place. My hometown is nice enough. It's simply nothing special. There's potatoes and cattle and sheep and other farming, of course. And some people, like my dad, have jobs at the big paper mill down in Millicott. And you could get by with some lumbering, working as a hunting and fishing guide, a little welding on the side, whatever. Nobody in northern Maine relies on one job. Anyway, Thompson Corners is not the sort of vital strategic target that military planners would think of when deciding where to drop from orbit a combat transport with a dozen or so heavily armed troops. The Ruha troops, cute and furry bewhiskered bastards that they are, no doubt waited until their transport finally skidded to a stop on the front lawn of the elementary school in the middle of town, popped the door open, gazed in awe at the magnificent vista of Thompson Corners, and asked the pilot where the hell they were. Soldiers are soldiers, whether they have fur, skin, or scales. So logically, the Ruha lobbed a missile at the most imposing structure in the area, the potato warehouse, took it out in impressive fashion. I mean, they blew the hell out of it. The soldiers must have had something against potatoes. Next, they destroyed the two bridges across the Connecticut River, the railroad bridge, and the old concrete highway bridge that's been there since it was built by FDR's Works Progress administration in the 1930s. We'd had a lot of rain, and the river was running high. So with the bridge out, the only way for me to get into town was to drive all the way to Woodford and cross the river there. Like the old New England joke. Can't get there from here, right? Nice idea. If the roads hadn't been clogged with panic traffic and 100 other people didn't have the same idea I had at the same time. When I saw that assault ship coming in, trailing smoke behind it, and headed for the center of Thompson Corners, I was already in my parents' pickup truck on my way into town to pick up my sister from the fence house. It was 10 minutes after the first sight stop hit. The radio said the governor had just declared a state of emergency, urged everyone to remain calm. Then all communications went down. No radio, no cell phones, no TV, no electricity. I didn't need to wait for instructions. I was going to pick up my kid sister, get back home, and hunker down with my family until I figured out what was happening. Behind the seat was my father's bird hunting shotgun, a box of shells that were good for quail and not much else. Just how clearly I was thinking that morning. All my army gear, including my rifle, were back at Fort Drum in New York State. I was, after all, on leave. Coming over the hill, I saw the ruins of the bridges and nearly crashed into a line of traffic that was trying to get into town like I was. Bill Geary, a volunteer firefighter and a retired captain from the Maine National Guard, was getting people organized to drive over to Woodford and come into Thompson Corners using the old fire road. I, like a dumbass, shouted that my truck had four-wheel drive. Almost everybody in northern Maine has four-wheel drive, even if it's only a beat-up old Subaru. Since I was last in line, I got turned around first, and three guys whose car had gone in the ditch jumped in my truck. We roared off like the cavalry coming to the rescue in a movie. By the time we fought through outbound traffic to get across the bridge in Woodford and bounced along the poorly maintained fire road halfway toward town, the Ruha had already secured the center of Thompson Corners. The town was empty because no humans had waited for an engraved invitation to get the hell out of there. One sheriff's deputy panicked and fired off a couple shots with his 9mm service weapon until the Ruha got annoyed and took out the shell station he was hiding in with what looked like an anti-tank rocket. I've seen Ruha up close since then, plenty of times. No, they don't eat humans, and no, they don't kill babies. Believe the propaganda if you want. I know what I've seen. If that sheriff's deputy hadn't opened fire, the Ruha might not have killed a single person in town. I couldn't blame the Ruha. If some idiot was taking pot shots at me, I'd light him up with a rocket too. I know, because I've done the same thing in Nigeria. Anyway, the Forest Service gate across the fire road was locked. We wasted 5 minutes while a guy 3 trucks ahead of us tried blasting the lock with a shotgun. Surprise! The Forest Service had anticipated somebody trying that, and that lock wouldn't budge. A guy rammed the gate and busted both the gate and the radiator of his truck, then needed to be pushed off the road before the rest of us could squeeze by and drive through. Okay, everybody has a story from my book. This is my story, so shut up and listen. One thing I've learned is that Ruha Army grunts are like grunts across the galaxy. They want to get the combat over with and get back to their bearings, or beds in their place. Did I hate them? Hell yes. But I don't think they meant to kill people, at least except for collateral damage. Whatever their objective was on Earth, these troops had missed their landing zone and were making the best of the situation. Everybody would have been better off if those Ruha had sat in their busted transport with their thumbs up their asses, called the Ruha version of AAA, and waited for a tow truck. Combat ops don't work that way. Something gets screwed up on every mission. You adapt and do the best you can to accomplish your objective. This group of Ruha decided their objective was to secure Penobscot County, whether that made sense or not. If the stand the most likely plan was to destroy our industrial infrastructure and knock us back into the Stone Age, so we'd be no threat to them. That was their original objective. They missed it by a couple 100 miles when they landed in Thompson Corners. The Castang were mostly telling the truth about why the Ruha hit us, although they lied about everything else, which I'll get to eventually. We shouldn't even be fighting the Ruha. They aren't our enemy. Our allies are. I better start at the beginning. My name is Joe Bishop, and I'm 20 years old on the day the Ruha attacked us, a specialist in the U.S. Army. Before the Army cut it, I had slightly longer than medium-length hair of an indeterminate blonde-brown color, which I got from my mother. She called the color Mouse Fur Brown, and dyed her own hair a golden blonde for as long as I could remember. Blue eyes I got from both my parents, and my height of 6 feet 3 inches definitely came from my father's side. My mom barely stands 5'4" and stocking feet. In high school, I played third base on the baseball team, wide receiver on the football team, and was the backup shooting guard on the basketball team, although I didn't play basketball my senior year. Truth is, I wasn't a star athlete in baseball or football either. I worked hard, put the team first, and we won our share of games. But when it came time to send out applications to colleges, I didn't know where I wanted to go to school or what I wanted to be when I grew up, other than knowing that I didn't want to stick to
What was that?
but I wanted to get out of constant corners. My father had been in the Air Force for a couple of years. Then he went into the reserves as a mechanic. Same type of job he did at the paper mill. He liked working with his hands, fixing stuff. And I kind of did too. Money was tight. I didn't want to bury myself in debt with student loans, so the military sounded good to me. When I signed up for the Army, I did it because I wanted to serve my country, and because the Army was great for college. The life also appealed to me. I loved the outdoors. Camping, hunting, fishing, hiking, canoeing. The training was done, sure, nothing that I didn't expect. And I was proud to get through basic and be assigned where I wanted, the 10th Mountain Infantry Division in Fort Drum, New York. Peacekeeping duty in Nigeria wasn't what I would have wished for, but we got orders and I went. I was surprised that peacekeeping involved killing so many people. But it is what it is. So now you know why I was laying under a bush atop a small ridge that overlooked the center of my hometown, staring at that busted Wuhan transport ship, laying there and trying to figure out what, if anything, we should do. That is one big damned hamster fish. You ain't lying, Tom Paulson said as he handed the binoculars back to me. What are we gonna do? I don't know yet. Let me think. There were plenty of military veterans around my hometown. I had one of them with me. Tom had been a Navy supply clerk 20 years ago. I was Army infantry with lethal combat experience and on active duty. I guess it makes sense the others were looking at me for ideas. They knew I'd been in combat in Nigeria, fighting disorganized, homegrown militia fanatics in the bush. It's totally different from tangling with giant space hamsters in my hometown in northern Maine. Where are all the gun nuts that actually use them? This all we got. I looked in dismay at the collection of hunting rifles, shotguns, and the odd 9mm handgun. Everybody in Thompson Corners had a gun because everybody hunted, or at least needed to keep theirs away from their backyard bird people. Shut up. Nobody has an old M60 anyway. What do you know, Dad? Hell, bitch, I want to kill a moose so I can eat it, not vaporize the damn thing, Tom said. Hunting licenses ain't cheap. All right, let's do it. I looked through the binocs again at the hamsters patrolling the streets of my hometown. At the dark smoke coming from the potato warehouse, brought down by the railroad track, which was still burning. At the hamsters' shuttle, landing craft, or infantry assault ship, or whatever they called it. Squat, ugly, and powerful looking, with a banged up nose and a bent wing, and a thin stream of white smoke coming from the city as it sat on the front lawn of the elementary school. Hamsters. We have other names for it. Rats, weasels, rodents. But with their fine golden fur, round faces, and whiskers, what they most look like are hamsters. Except hamsters aren't 6 feet tall, standing on 2 legs, wearing body armor, helmets, and goggles, carrying evil-looking rifles, and coming down from orbit in an assault ship. That I know of. I mean, I never owned any, so what do I know? We didn't know they were hamsters. So one of them in the doorway of their ship, and he's a pilot because he didn't have a rifle, took his helmet off, got something from his pocket, and started eating. He got yelled at and put his helmet back on, but not before we saw his furry head and hamster ears. It wasn't exactly hamsters, but close enough. Susie told him lifted her eye from the scope of a 30-06 hunting rifle. What about the quiet? They have dynamite, right? Susie was about 5 feet nothing. Her day job was a teacher at the regional middle school. And looking at her, you wouldn't think she could even lift her old Army surplus right. But I've seen the racks of gear ammo stacked up on the south side of her barn, but she sure knew how to use it. What are we doing with dynamite? He was strong. Run up to that ship of theirs and throw it through the door? We wouldn't get within 100 yards before they cut you down. He's right, I said, thinking of the hell that IEDs caused us in Nigeria. They were a problem on the road, especially dangerous when we were patrolling a village where sight lines were limited and there were plenty of places to conceal a body. Patrolling, like the hamsters were doing right now. Pairs of hamsters were checking out buildings in the center of town, which, considering it is Thompson Corners, isn't much. You may think that being the Columbus Day holiday, there would have been lots of tourists in town when the Ruha dropped in for a visit. If you think that, you better have the good fortune of visiting my hometown. Columbus Day is a big leaf-peeping holiday in New England. A weekend when city folk from down south drive out to the country to see the colorful foliage on the trees, certain quaint little inns and bed and breakfast places, and take lots of pictures. We do get tourists in our part of the Great North Woods, but not for leaf peeping. By Columbus Day, a lot of the trees around here had already dropped their leaves, and our part of Maine is pretty flat anyway. Plus, the pine trees don't turn color. People come here for canoeing, fishing, hunting, and snowmobiling. There isn't a whole lot of that going on the first part of October, but the town was pretty empty when the Wuhan crash landed, the day being a school holiday and all. Then to think, too. I couldn't imagine what would have happened if the elementary school had been full and the Wuhan took control of the town. I didn't have to imagine that scenario, since I'd already seen that in the movie Red Dawn, and a good one, made way back when Reagan was in office, not the crappy one they made later. Anyway, I had an idea. See, your father works at the quarry, right? You and Tom get us dynamite, detonators, wires, whatever we need to blow something up remotely. I had no idea how to do that, having never even seen a stick of dynamite. Diego, stay here and watch the hamsters. See where they patrol, especially how often they go by the old town hall, which is now home to the town's only dime and end of an insurance agency. There, dead. See if you can find a truck or van down there that we can get started, big enough to fit a couple people in the back. Something covered, not an open truck then. Keep to this side of town. We don't want to cross Route 11 or the hamsters will see it. If you find something, drive it over to Red Brook Road and leave it there. We'll meet back here. Okay, Vic. Tom nodded. What are we gonna do? I took one more look at the Wuhan, noting the disposition of their troops without even thinking about it, seeing where they were patrolling through the town and where they had defensive positions around their ships. Really, going through the trenches. You should have got to be citizens. I blurted out. Fish, Stan said defensively. This is the best we could find. It's either this or an old Dodge Neon. Most people got in their cars and left in a hurry, it looks like. There aren't a lot of cars left on this side of the river. Yeah, but Tom shook his head. There's no freaking way we can drive this. We're fighting an alien invasion. We cannot drive this thing. I had to agree. Except for one thing. It was a perfect truck. They found a delivery truck, like a FedEx truck. It was in pretty good mechanical condition. Tires weren't bald. There were some rusted out spots around the wheel wells, but nothing serious. It had big back doors, so several people could get in or out fast. And they reported that it ran and shifted well, with no squeaky belts or squealing brakes. They found it behind the Davis Brothers garage. It must have been getting the interior rebuilt, because the inside was stripped, other than the driver's seat. It was a good truck. Except for that one thing. Bonnie. A big, powerful costume dinosaur with a perpetual super suit. Bonnie, and Smurfs, Mickey Mouse, unicorns, and a lot of other fictional characters were painted on the truck. Whoever decided which characters to paint on the truck had made interesting choices, like, why was Iron Man waving to the Smurfs? Was that Darth Vader down near the right front fender, or that someone started painting black primer to cover up the rust spots and decided to get creative? Most of the characters were poorly painted. It took me a minute to realize that what I thought was a sitting Buddha was supposed to be Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Buddha. He's an ice cream truck, in case you haven't guessed yet. A ridiculous ice cream truck that I'm fairly certain didn't have permission to use any of the trademark characters painted on the side. Also, instead of the familiar Mr. Softy logo, this one had a poorly stenciled Super Softy logo. How could ice cream be super soft? Was it melted? This was clearly a bandit ice cream truck. The kind that I pictured furtively roaming suburban neighborhoods of a big city selling expired ice cream and trying to avoid local authorities. A giant purple Barney plastered across both sides, with a stuffed Barney strapped to the hood were impossible to avoid. Whoever owned this truck must really like Barney. We could throw a quick coat of paint on it, Dan suggested. We're not taking time to repaint the damn thing, I growled. I didn't like the idea either, but this truck is what we have. We go into battle with. Besides, the hamsters won't know who Barney is. They may think he's a fierce predator. I didn't believe that one. Oh, for Christ's sake. Susie was exasperated. You idiot men are afraid to ride around in a truck that says softy on it? Get me. I'll drive you there. Okay, what's the plan? Go, go, go! I shouted along the stand as we jumped in to sprawl on the floor of the ice cream truck. Susie didn't need to be told twice. She hit the gas as we were still in the air. Stan would have slid right out the back of the truck if Deb hadn't gotten hold of his shirt collar. Tom kicked Stan's feet inside and slammed the back door shut just as the truck bounced over a big pothole, and Tom landed on his ass on top of the Ruha soldier. The hamster grunted, which told us it was still alive. I hadn't been completely sure of that when we grabbed it. Looking back, it was a stupid plan, and we got lucky. I noticed hamsters went through the alley between the diner building and the hardware store next to it. While the rest of us were off gathering supplies, Diego had watched and confirmed the hamster patrols went through that alley regularly, looking in windows and knocking open doors.